So let's talk about causes of stress. Can we categorize like the different ways we stress? Are they always based on facts and things that have actually happened and we almost like are allowed or should be a little stressed? Because, sometimes people say that stress can be also like productive
Yes,
or,
and it is.
it's definitely a valid feeling to have, right? I guess
Yes.
we have to try to not let it numb us, but
Yes.
yeah, I'm just curious on that, if it's actually real or if we just create it in our minds, and we should just be aware of that and not do it.
I feel like the answer is both.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I do feel like to answer this question,
Yeah.
I'm going to give a little bit of information about the central nervous system. Because yes, stress is normal, right? It's there for a reason. We have stress for a reason, right? We
Yeah.
have stress responses in our bodies for a reason.
Okay.
So feeling stress is normal. Sometimes it's good. Even having anxiety can be good, right? So, because it actually helps you prepare more. Like when you're a little anxious about something, it has you prepare
Yeah, it
more,
motivates you to
right?
kind of, okay, I gotta do
Right.
it.
Like this podcast, I want it to be prepared. It's like you want to make sure you get that little bit of nervousness, excitement,
Yeah.
that little bit of anxiety. And it's like, okay, that's going to motivate me
Right.
to prepare. Right. So it can be good. It can help you actually get things done. All right. So anxiety can be good. Stress responses are normal. It's literally part of the makeup of our bodies. Right. So going back to the central nervous system, and a lot of people might be familiar with this because I feel like it's more popular now. It's like talked about more, which makes me very happy. But basically, there are two parts of our central nervous system, and one part is called the sympathetic nervous system, and the other is called the parasympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic nervous system we all know as like fight or flight, right? Like our fight or flight response, our survival mode, right? And now they've added a couple more. Now we have the freeze response, which is like you just completely like become immobile.
Right.
And then there's fawn response, which is like we take on this people pleasing to survive, right? Like
okay.
we
I'm
try
like,
to
what is that?
please, like we try to please
Yeah.
the people around us as like a survival tactic. We don't want to upset anybody. We don't want to be rejected. So it's like we take
Right.
on this fawn response, it's called.
Okay.
Right? So these are all the different survival modes of the sympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is known as like rest and digest. This is the part of our nervous system where it's like, oh, we're safe. We can kick off our shoes, relax. Like there's nothing wrong in the world, right? Like that's where we want to be.
Yeah.
Right. But we need the
Chill
stress
vibes.
response. So, right. And like I said before, we have all of these things for a reason.
Right.
And so the reason why we have the nervous system and the stress response is because if you think like way, way back in the day before like civilization, when we needed to hunt for our food and, we needed to be aware of danger, like if a lion started to run at us, we needed this stress response because what happens is that your blood flow literally goes to the bigger parts of like to your muscles. It goes to like your quadriceps. It goes to like all of your active muscles so that you can run, so that you can literally run for your life, right? Like a life-threatening situation. And then when you're out of danger, the parasympathetic turns on, right? And it's like, oh, you can't see the lion anymore. It's been long gone. So it's like, okay, I can return to safety in my body. All is well.
Right.
Right. So I think the problem now, and generally speaking, is that we don't have these, well, it's not that we don't have them at all, but in our society, that we're living in, we don't have these many life-threatening
Threatening, yeah.
situations, right? It's like we're going to work,
Right.
we're going home. We might have, stressors with our friends, family, whatever it might be, right? We might have stressors at work, right? But it's a little rare now for us to have like
Being
these,
like survival mode.
yes.
Yeah.
So now what's happening is that our stress responses are being activated all day, right? Because now we're going to work. Let's say your boss says something to you that
Right.
just threw you off, right? So it's like now that activates your stress response. Well, now it's like,
Yeah.
oh, what if I'm going to get fired? What if, right? What if?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
yeah.
it's like, then we go home. Maybe something happened, I don't know what goes on. Maybe you break something. Maybe, your partner says something to you. And so then that activates stress,
Right.
right? And we're rarely where our parasympathetic is turning on and saying, okay, you're safe in your body,
Right.
and that's where the thoughts come in, where it's like if you have these thoughts where you're not present, right? So if your thoughts are future oriented and it's like, oh, wow, I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to do this. Now your reality has become those things, right? So your reality is whatever your thoughts are. That's the way it works. Right? So if your thoughts are in the future, then your body, that's what your body is reacting to.
Something that hasn't even happened.
Hasn't even happened, right? So, I'll give you an example for myself. While I'm driving here,
Okay.
what am I doing the whole time in the car? I'm like, oh my gosh, what if I say something that doesn't make sense? What if this happens, right? What if this? And then I realize, oh my gosh, none of that's real, right? Like, that is not even reality.
That's true. Yeah.
Right? But my body
is reacting to it.
I started to sweat a little bit, right? You start to get hot.
Your stomach
and your
hurts.
body is literally reacting
Right.
to something that isn't even happening. Right? I was driving my car.
You're doing great, by the way. You don't have to worry about saying something wrong.
Good. I don't know. But yeah. So your body, your body can't see what's on the outside. So it's up to you to tell your body, hey, we're okay. We're safe. And it's like I had that moment in the car where I was like, oh my gosh, I was just so lost in the future. Right?
Yeah.
There's the awareness. Or it's like, oh my gosh, I've been lost in the future for minutes and my body has been responding to that as if that's what's actually happening. And it's like, but what am I really doing right now? I'm driving my car. I'm not in danger. There's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah,
My
I should
life's
just like
not
enjoy the
threatened.
music,
Exactly.
get the windows down.
Exactly. You come back to the present moment, right? But now I feel like our minds have become so busy and almost so, I guess, anxious, I want to say, where it's, we're spending a lot of time in the future.
Yeah.
We're spending a lot of time on like, I have to get all these things done, or we're spending time in the past.
Right.
Your brain takes like a snapshot of that big feeling, and then as a form of protection, it basically keeps your brain hyper aware, hyperactive, so that we're always scanning the room, right? We're like always scanning, looking for danger, and it's all for a form of protection. It's just so we don't ever want to feel that way again. It's like your brain knows, and that's what's so cool. Like, trauma is a serious thing, but I feel like we have to appreciate the fact that your body is just trying to protect you.
All right, so we talked about a lot of different kinds of stress and focusing on the moment, not focusing too much about the future or the past. But obviously, like you said, trauma is real and we can control it. It happens to us. Is there anything else you want to share with us about trauma or PTSD? Because I believe that we try to move on with our lives, right, and focus on the present, but there is a lot of times that things come up and stress comes up from these experiences. So
Yeah, so I could, talk about both of those things that you brought up. So in terms of like PTSD, right? So there are these two like concepts. One of them is like we call it a big T, like that's a big trauma, right? Or like
Okay.
a macro stressor. And then we have, on the other hand, these little traumas, more of like these little T's, micro stressors. So in terms of PTSD, that's usually, and of course there are unique cases, but PTSD is usually from a big T, right? Like a big trauma, a macro stressor. So something that, like I said before, an event or events that completely changes the perception of like the life that you once knew. It's like your life will never be the same. And it changes the way you think about yourself, the way, you talk. It could even affect the way you brush your teeth. It has this major impact on you. And going off of that, there's one of someone that I've worked with who was a veteran, and he was in the Navy. And so he was on like a ship for a really long time. And now, and he's an older man now, and he was, in the Navy when he was a young teenager, young adult, but still to this day, and he is an elderly man now, to this day, he's still, claustrophobic. He still can't stay in waiting rooms. He always has to look for the exits. His brain is very hypervigilant, right? So something that happened decades ago completely changed his entire
way of living, right?
Right. His entire perception of the world.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a big T. That's like, holy moly, you don't feel safe anymore, right? Like, you haven't returned to your body yet.
There's danger everywhere.
Right. So that's right. Looking for exits, worrying, even being in traffic, like being trapped. Like it's a big, big trigger.
Yeah.
Right. So something like that, like I said, that happened decades ago. It just still affects somebody. Right. So that would be like a big T. But to stay on that too, if you go through something, it's possible that you won't even notice the effects until months after, right? So you can go through something traumatic, what would be, described as traumatic, and be perfectly fine after.
Yeah.
Because that is your body's way of protecting you, right? Like that's your body recognizing this was too much to even handle or to even process.
Yeah.
So
it doesn't even allow you.
Yes.
You have to kind of like act on it at the moment, right?
Yes. And like that is, again, the beautiful thing about your body and about your brain is that it does whatever it needs to keep you safe, to keep you functioning in the best way possible. Right. But then down the line, eventually these things have to come out. Right. So then people will start noticing that they're like crying a lot for no reason. They're like just feeling down. They're starting to not trust people. They're right. And like these are the after effects of dealing with trauma, right? It could happen later on. It's basically whenever your body like thinks that it's safe to do so, when it's like, okay, like now's the time, like to kind of let this stuff out. But
so does this mean that you have to figure out why or where this is coming from to be able to move past it?
not
because you don't know when it happened. You don't know why you're acting now the way you are, right?
Yeah. And it's, the why isn't always important. Sometimes it does help people because it gives them a reason for, I guess, like why they've been experiencing what they've been experiencing, where it's like, oh, that's why I've been, thinking these things or feeling these ways. And sometimes
it helps
the
like
why,
resolve, right?
Yes. Sometimes the why can be helpful, but it's not always helpful because again, when you meet yourself in the present moment, And it's like, okay, well, these are the things that are happening now, right? Like that's the reality. And you don't always need the why to push you forward.
That's good to know.
Right? Because the reality is that this is what you're feeling right now.
Yeah.
And do you want to continue feeling this way? You know, is this comfortable for you? Is this how you want to feel? And if the answer is no, then it's like, okay, then let's work to kind of do what we can, you know, and maybe sometimes along the way, the why gets established, but you don't need the why to start.
To move on.
Right?
That's
you
very
can
good
start
to know.
at any point.
Yeah, because I think some of us might like spend a lot of time trying to figure that out and get stuck, right?
And sometimes that's just like, it prevents us from
Yeah.
actually
Yeah, it's like
moving
a waste
forward.
of time in the end. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it's like those would be more of the big T's, right? Like those bigger moments. And then we have the little T's, more of the macro stressors, which these are our everyday stressors. You know, it's like you spilt your coffee on you in the morning, stressor, right? Now it's like, oh, now I have to go change, or I'm going to have coffee on myself for the rest of the day, right? Then you know, your boss is upset with you, another stressor. You know, you have to do this, another stressor. You know, this person said this to you, right? So we get hit in the face like constantly.
Right.
So I like to explain as like big T's as a big wave. You know, like a big T would be like a tidal wave. It's like this big event. And then the little T's throughout the day are like these constant splashes in the face. You know, it's like you're going through the day and you're just getting splashed in the face constantly.
right.
Right. And so yeah, all of these things could eventually lead to like chronic states of stress, could eventually lead to you being in the survival mode more often than the relaxation mode.
Yeah.
Right. So it just all doesn't matter where it comes from. Right. Let's just try to get ourselves in relaxation mode more often. Right.
Yes.
Like into the present moment more often, into out of the thinking mind, right? Out of the future, out of the past, and just into the present, and then go from there.
Right. I love that. I love everything you've shared with us so far. I really
you.
hope it resonates with more people because
Me too.
it definitely resonated with me. I'm definitely taking that with me in my future and having these reminders to be more present. I'm going to incorporate the self-check-in routine. I'll try to do it every
It's
day.
a good one.
I'll try.
Yes.
I don't want to promise you 100%,
Right?
but
Your non-negotiables.
but it's not negotiable. So I guess I have to give you that promise.
Non-negotiable.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, like you said, even if it's 5 minutes, everybody can do that. There's no way.
It still counts.
There's no excuse. I'm too busy, right?
Right.
We can't
5
use
minutes.
that.
If you
No
look at
more.
your screen time, you'll really see how much time you have.
That's a good point.
Because the screen time is scary when you look at it, right? So it's like, wow, you have more time than you think you do.
Good point. Okay, 5 minutes for everybody.
Yes, 5 minutes.
We got this.
People who have gone through trauma, a lot of it becomes somatic, like it becomes more physical. You know, sometimes it's very hard to cognitively work through these types of experiences with people who have gone through trauma, where like it's hard to logically say, like, get them to believe.
That's true.
You know,
'cause
like,
they're
it's
very
hard.
emotional or they're thinking about it so
Yes.
intensely at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's like a tactic where you would actually start using the body first, right? So because we have to convince the body that we're safe.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So it helps sometimes to start with the body. So like something that I teach is there's this little trick. It's super easy. That even if you're stressed, even if you're anxious, you know, you can, if you start like deep breathing, but you actually lengthen the exhale, like you double the exhale, that sends a signal to your brain,
Okay.
letting your brain know that you are safe. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system, right? So there are like these little tools, these little tricks that help to activate the parasympathetic without you having to think about it.
Yeah.
You know, without you having to, because yeah, when you're in survival mode, when you're in that experience, your brain isn't even working at its best.
There's no logic.
There's like literally the blood flow leaves your prefrontal cortex, which is the area for like moral reasoning, logic, cognitive functioning, right? So the blood flow flows away.
Yeah.
And it goes to the emotional part of your brain.
Yeah.
So it's like when you're in that sort of experience, you're not thinking as logically as you usually would.
Right.
Right? So it's like we can't sit back.
But what do you suggest like a friend should do for somebody that is going through trauma or like a bad experience, right? Like you want to support that person that is going through it. But like you said, it's really hard to bring logic or try to explain things to them like, okay, think about it this way, or like it's not going to happen again. Like this is not what they want to hear, right? Yeah. So is there anything that you could do to help them? Or are you just supposed to like be an open ear for them and like support?
Yeah, I think it can be effective to even communicate with that person, to ask them, like, how do you want me to support you? You know, where it's like, I know that what you're going through is difficult, you know, and it's like, do you want me to just kind of sit back and listen to you? Do you want me to give you advice? Like, it kind of puts the ball back in their court, you know, because maybe the trauma, right? Trauma is something that we don't have control over. It's unfortunately something that happens to us and we don't have a say in it, you know, and yet it's our responsibility to then heal from it. It's like very unfair, right? But trauma, it's completely out of our control.
Yeah.
So it can be really effective and powerful to give someone back their control who went through trauma. And it's like, okay, well, like, how do you need me to support you? Right? What do you need? And how can I be there
That's
for you?
really good advice. Yeah, just ask a simple question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because, we don't want to, and we've all been there, where it's like we're stressed out and someone's trying to tell us.
Right.
Just relax.
Yeah, it's fine.
Just
relax.
Okay,
thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so there are times where, like, we felt misunderstood.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, it's helpful to ask. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, do you want me to give you advice? Do you just want me to listen and be here for you? So something simple like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great advice. Okay, so this has all been very good information, and I'm really enjoying our conversation.
Me too.
I was just wondering if you have anything to propose about tackling different types of like stress causes in different ways, depending on how they're caused, I guess, and if we are in a state of awareness that we could figure that out, because there's experiences that we've had, but then there's other things that are out of our control that happen in our lives.
Yeah.
That it's just unfortunate sometimes, and it's maybe harder to control that stress.
Yeah.
I don't know, any advice that you have for us there?
Yeah. So something, that I can suggest for anybody is throughout the day, you can kind of sit back, check in with yourself, right? Just see how you're feeling. Notice if you're stressed, right? Notice where maybe your thoughts are taking you. And this kind of ties into some things that we brought up before, where it's recognizing, are your thoughts future oriented or past oriented? Right? That's really important to recognize, because then we could actually see, like, oh, I'm not even living in my body right now. I'm somewhere else, right? So kind of having that conversation with yourself, like, am I worrying about things in the future? Am I kind of like stuck on things in the past? And then ask yourself, do these thoughts align with how you want to feel. Right? Like, I know we all have this idea of like, oh, I want to be the best version of myself. And I want, like, you know, to be, the best person I can be. Right? But I also think it's very important to visualize your life for a minute. And it's really important to think, like, how do I want my life to feel? Maybe there are things that you want to do, right? There are goals that you want to accomplish and, like, all of this stuff. But how do you want to feel? And is the way that you're living or thinking aligning with that?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, so I would say throughout the day, have these check-ins with yourself.
Yeah.
You know, if you're noticing, like, I don't know, maybe you set an alarm on your phone, you know, like, and it's like, okay, here's my check-in.
Yeah.
And you kind of, like, sit back, notice your breath, right? Because your breath can tell you a lot of different things. Your breath can tell you how your body is feeling and how your mind is feeling, right? Because if you are breathing really shallow and it's fast, right? Or if you try to take a breath in and it gets stuck at the inhale and it's like you feel like you can't swallow your breath, right? That's usually a signal that your body is stressed. You know, maybe your mind is sending your body signals that it's leaving it in a stressed place.
Yeah.
Right? So you notice that. And if your body is stressed, start to slow down your breathing. Right? Like, get to a point where you're able to take a full breath. And then think about it, where it's like, okay, am I aligned with how I want to feel? And if I'm not, what can I do to work through that?
Right.
What can I do to transition that? Right? Because like I said before, when you actually bring awareness to something and you pay attention to something, then there's an opportunity for change. Right? But if we're not paying attention.
Yeah, because sometimes we're just like, oh yeah, I don't want to feel this way. I want to change that situation. But
right, but have you even thought about how you want to feel? Like, what you actually do want?
Yeah. How you feel now and where do you want to be?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it can be helpful to just, like, recenter.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I love that. That's a really good point. So just one other thing, because we got a question from our followers here for Namaste City. And somebody was asking me about fatigue and chronic stress. And sometimes that could lead to inflammation in our bodies. So I don't know if you've noticed that or if you had any clients that had something similar.
Yeah, so I will say that I am not a medical doctor, but
yes. Disclaimer.
Yes, disclaimer. Not a medical doctor. But the things that I do know, because I do read a lot about trauma and the central nervous system and all of that stuff. So the things that I, can speak on is that when your stress response is turned on, when it is activated, that's the survival mode, fight or flight, right? So when that's activated, your blood flow, like I explained before, it flows to the necessary parts that it needs to survive, right?
Yeah.
So it flows to your muscles, it flows and away. So what's important here is that it flows away from, like, your digestive organs, away from even your hair follicles, right?
Interesting.
So it flows away from the things that aren't important in that moment, right? Because if you are running away from a tiger or a lion, you don't need to grow your hair, right? It's like you need to run.
Yeah.
So you don't need
Put
to
all that
digest
energy.
your food in that moment, right? So all of your energy goes to the necessary parts. However, over time, if we're in that state for too long, right? If we never returned back to safety, then that leaves room for your organs. Like, so let's say your liver has to then overwork, right? Or your adrenals have to overwork because it's trying to pump adrenaline because it's saying you're stressed. So when we're stressed, we release adrenaline, right? Norepinephrine, noradrenaline, all of these, like, chemicals, these hormones to keep us going. But eventually these organs can't keep up. It's like, you're stressed way too much and I can't keep up with you anymore. Right? So now it's like inflammation starts to happen because basically now those organs can't keep up with the stress. Right? So yeah, that's kind of like how it happens in a more like simpler way.
Yeah.
But
So we have to use it as a sign to check in.
Right, to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, right? Do more things that are going to bring you into relaxation. And that could look differently for a lot of people, you know? And check in with your thoughts, you know, because we could be getting a massage, which is nice and relaxing, but if the whole time you're thinking about...
you're stressing.
Yeah, if the whole time you're thinking about, you know, your mind is elsewhere and it's not focusing on the massage,
then you wasted your
money.
You're
still stressed. Yeah. It's like your mind is still not present, right? So it's checking in with your thoughts too. Like noticing, again, are they in the future? Are they in the past?
Right.
And can we return back to what we're doing right now?
Yeah.
Right? Because what you're doing right now, you're most likely not in danger.
Yeah.
And if you are, then that's a different story.
You know, I was kind of curious about that breathing technique you talked about earlier. I think you said that we should focus on longer exhales. So I was thinking, why don't we close this episode with a little bit of breathing, and we'll leave it at that.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Awesome.
All right. I'm going to ground you in.
Yes,
so we're going to do
close
it.
my
And
eyes.
whoever is listening, as long as you're not driving.
Yes.
You know, or if you're driving, you could do it with your eyes open.
Yes. I know. I hate when I'm driving and I'm listening to podcasts and they want to do like a full-blown meditation. I'm like, I cannot do this right now. So yeah, let's keep it open for everybody.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
But I'm going to close my eyes.
Okay, me too. I like closing my eyes when I do these things. All right. So wherever you are, right, if you're sitting down, which you might be, right? So if you're in a seat, close down the eyes if that feels comfortable. If it doesn't, feel free to just keep your eyes at a soft gaze, right? Just down below your nose. And just start to check in with yourself, right? You can soften through your face. Relax that space between the inner brows. Good. Soften through the eyes, even the cheekbones. Good. Unclench your jaw. Maybe you even relax the tongue away from the mouth, the roof of the mouth. Good. And then let your palms just relax wherever they are, right? So maybe they're on your thighs. They could be in your lap. Maybe on a table, right? Wherever they're relaxing. And just notice the connection, right, that your palms are making. Good. Notice the connection that your body is making with your seat, right? Really rooting those sit bones. You could almost visualize and imagine roots growing out of your sit bones all the way in to the center of the earth. Right? Nice and grounded. Good. Notice the connection that the soles of your feet are making. Maybe it's with the ground. Right, so just bring your awareness to all of the parts of your body that are making a connection with something. Good. Start to relax the shoulders. Just letting yourself ground into your body, right? Allowing yourself to get out of your thinking mind and in to the body. And then you could bring your awareness to your breath, right? Just noticing it. Noticing if it's shallow, if it's fast, or maybe it's deep and slow, right? Just check in with the nature of your body. And then you could start to deepen the breath when you're ready. Taking long inhales, long exhales. And even notice that on the exhales, maybe your shoulders relax a little bit more. Good. And then I'm going to guide you through a counted breath. All right, so first let's just take a nice cleansing breath. So you're going to take a full breath in through the nose. Feel the rise, and exhale, just let that go. Good. And now we inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. Exhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right? Slow and with control. Inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. Exhale, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. Exhale for 8. Slow and with control. 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Last round. Inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. Exhale for 8, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Just take a big breath in. And exhale. Let it go. Release your shoulders. Good. Come back to the body. Maybe you start to wiggle the fingertips, the toes. Good. Just awaken the body. Come back to your physical body, your physical space. All right, and just take a moment. Notice how you feel. Right? Just taking those few breaths. It wasn't a lot. And just notice how it might have changed or shifted your energy. All right, and then whenever you're ready, right, you can open your eyes nice and gently, coming back to your space.
That was really good. We still have a lot more to talk about with Alexa, but for the sake of keeping these episodes short, we will need to end here. If you have more questions about stress that you feel they were not really addressed or resolved after listening to this podcast, please feel free to email us at namastecitylife@gmail.com, and we could always bring Alexa back for more. What I am planning on working on is, instead of analyzing the triggers of stress going forward, I plan on being more present and doing more things for me that fulfill me. To learn more about Namaste City and this podcast, please visit namastecitylife.com and feel free to drop us a message by visiting the Contact Us page. You can follow Namaste City on Instagram or Facebook. If you have not already done so, please go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Thanks for listening to No More Distractions by Namaste City, hosted by me, Sonia. Today's episode guest was Alexa Liberty. You can connect with her through her personal Instagram account at yogaholistics_. Thanks for listening.